Hello friends, welcome back to Civil Engineering Mastery. You all must be knowing about the term cantilever slab. In this video, we are going to discuss few important factors about cantilever slab which you will not be knowing. That is the behavior of cantilever slab, support conditions for cantilever slab, and what are all the design considerations we need to consider while designing the cantilever slab. So without any delay, let's start now. First, let me explain you what is cantilever slab. A slab which is supported at one end and free at other end is called cantilever slab. Generally, cantilever slabs are used in sajjas, canopies over windows and entrance to the building. So here in this image, this is one slab and you can see here from this beam there is a projection. Okay, so this is a cantilever slab. So for this cantilever slab, this beam is the support. So here this one end there is a beam support and the other end there is no support. So that is the cantilever slab. Okay, so the slab will be having support at one end and on the other end will be free. So here also you can see this is the cantilever slab and this is the support, fixed support. So here one end support is there and the other end there will not be any support. So when the load is applied on the free end, the slab will bend like this. So this is the bending behavior of the cantilever slab. For example, consider a ruler like this. So keep it on the table and hold it tightly. When you hold it tightly, so one end will become a fixed support or any support will be there at one end and the other end will become free. So when you apply load as he is doing like this, so how the bending happens in this ruler. So the same way cantilever slab also behave under the action of load. Okay, so the support is at one end, other end is free, so it will bend like this. So what we do to counteract this bending, we are providing reinforcement in slab. Let me explain you again. So the cantilever slab is having support at one end and other end is free. So there will not be any support at the free end. Okay. So when the load is applied on the cantilever slab, the slab bent like this. So in order to counteract this bending, we need to provide the reinforcement. To resist this bending moment, we need to provide the reinforcement. Usually what we do in one-way slab and two-way slab, one-way and two-way slab, we provide tension reinforcement at bottom, compression at top, right? In cantilever slab, the case is different because the bending behavior is different when compared to one-way and two-way slab. In cantilever slab, we have to provide tension reinforcement at top and compression at bottom. Usually, we don't need to provide compression reinforcement, but still we have to provide a minimum reinforcement at bottom in order to resist the temperature and shrinkage effect. So you have to be very careful, friends. This is very important. So cantilever slab is bending like this. So in order to counteract this bending moment, we need to provide tension reinforcement at top. You can understand from this clearly. So this is bending like this way. So in order to keep this straight, we need to provide the reinforcement at top. Since the concrete is weak in tension, strong in compression, so in order to counteract the bending moment, concrete is not only sufficient. So that is why we are providing reinforced steel at top as a tension reinforcement, and bottom we are providing compression reinforcement, minimum percentage of compression reinforcement. So friends, I hope this concept of behavior of cantilever slab is clear to you. Next, let's discuss the design consideration as per IS 456-2000. First one is effective span, effective depth ratio, nominal cover, minimum reinforcement, maximum diameter of bars, maximum spacing of bars. So these are all the design consideration while designing a cantilever slab. Let's discuss one by one. First one is effective span as per IS 456-2000, class number 22.2, page number 34. So what is given is for all other slab like simply supported beam slab and all. Let's look into the cantilever slab. The effective length of a cantilever slab shall be taken as its length to the face of the support plus half the effective depth, except where it forms the end of a continuous beam where the length to the center of support shall be taken. So according to this criteria, we need to take the effective length of the cantilever slab while designing the cantilever slab. So the other things and all for given for continuous slab, simply supported slab, That also you can consider whenever you are doing the design, that particular design of slab. So here our major concern is about cantilever slab. So this is how you need to consider the effective length of the cantilever slab. Next, span to depth ratio. Let's see what is given in IS 456 class number 23.2.1. The vertical deflection limit may generally be assumed to be satisfied provided that the span to depth ratios are not greater than the values obtained as below. Basic values of span to effective depth ratios for span up to 10 meters. Cantilever, it is 7, simply supported 20, continuous 26. So here our main concern is about cantilever slab. So whenever you are doing other things, like you can consider these values. Okay, so for cantilever slab, span to depth ratio is 7, and what we can do is, so depending on the area and the stress of steel for tension reinforcement, the values in A or B shall be modified by multiplying with the modification factor obtained as per figure number 4. So according to the tension reinforcement, stress of the steel for tension reinforcement, so whatever the reinforcement we are providing, so according to that, the values given in A and B can be multiplied with the modification factor. Okay, in B, for spans above 10 meter, values in A may be multiplied by 10 by span in meter except for cantilever, in which case deflection calculation should be made. So this is the criteria is given. So according to that, we can multiply with the modification factor as per figure number 4. Figure number 4 is modification factor for tension reinforcement. So this is the formula to find out the stress we can find out from this one. So by using this stress and percentage of tension reinforcement, we can find out the modification factor from here. Similarly, depending on the area of compression reinforcement, the value of span to depth ratio be further modified by multiplying with the modification factor obtained as per figure number 5. So this is given for compression reinforcement. Next one is nominal cover. Let's see what is given for nominal cover. Class number 26.4. Nominal cover is the design depth of concrete cover to all steel reinforcement including links. It is the dimension used in design and indicated in drawings. It shall not be less than the diameter of the bar. So it is very important, friends. So whenever you are designing any structural element, you have to be very careful about this nominal cover. So all the structural elements like beam, slab, footing, columns are having cover of different sizes. So this nominal cover is preventing the steel from corrosion. It also protects the steel from environmental effects, and also it gives fire resistance to the structure. Nominal cover to meet durability requirement. Minimum values for nominal cover of normal weight aggregate concrete which should be provided to all reinforcement including links depending on the condition of exposure described in 8.2.3. So here nominal cover to meet the durability requirement. For exposure, mild 20 mm, moderate means 30 mm, severe 45, very severe 50, extreme 75. Here there is a note. For main reinforcement up to 12 mm diabar, for mild exposure, the nominal cover may be reduced by 5 mm. So for mild exposure condition, we can up to 12 mm diabar, we can reduce the cover size by 5 mm. Unless specified otherwise, actual concrete cover should not deviate from the required nominal cover plus 10 mm. So for exposure condition, severe and very severe, reduction of 5 mm may be made where concrete grade is M35 and above. So for this severe and very severe condition where the concrete grade is M35 and above, in that case we can reduce the concrete cover by 5 mm. Next one is minimum reinforcement. So that is given in class number 26.5.2.1. The mild steel reinforcement in either direction, that is the transverse direction as well as in the longitudinal direction, in slab shall not be less than 0.15% of the total cross-sectional area. That means whenever we are using mild steel, that is Fe 250 grade, so in that case we have to provide the minimum percentage of 0.15% of the total cross-sectional area as a minimum reinforcement. Okay, so however, this value can be reduced to 0.12% when high strength deformed bars or welded wire fabric are used. So when we use high strength deformed bar HYSD bars, so that time we need to provide the minimum reinforcement of 0.12% of the total cross-sectional area. Next, maximum diameter of bars. The diameter of reinforcing bar shall not exceed 1/8 of the total thickness of the slab. For example, consider 5-inch thick slab. Maximum diameter should not be 1/8 of 125, right? 10.6 mm. So that means like it should not be more than 16 mm. It should not be more than 16 mm. So whenever we use the 5-inch thick slab, our maximum dia of bar should not exceed 16 mm. Up to 16 mm we can use. Next, let's see for 4-inch thick slab, which is equal to 1/8 of 100 mm, which is equal to 12.5. It's considered 12 mm. So when we use 4-inch thick slab, our maximum diameter should not exceed 12 mm. Similarly, when we use 6-inch thick slab, so that is 1/8 of 6 inches 150 mm, which is equal to 18.75. So we don't get this 18.75 dia bar. So let's consider as a 20 mm dia bar. So when we use 5-inch thick slab, so that time we should not exceed 16 mm dia bar. When we use 4-inch thick slab, our maximum diameter of bar shall not exceed 12 mm. When we use 6-inch thick slab, our maximum diameter of bar shall not exceed 20 mm. Next, maximum spacing of bar. So as per class number 26.3.3, maximum distance between bars in tension. So A is for beams. So here B is for slabs. The horizontal distance between parallel main reinforcement shall not be more than 3 times the effective depth of solid slab or 300 mm, whichever is smaller. For example, let's consider the first condition, that is 3 times the effective depth. So let's consider our effective depth is 120 mm. 3 times 120, which is equal to 360. Second condition is 300 mm. Among these two, whichever is smaller, 300 is the smaller value among these two. So whatever the spacing we are providing to the main reinforcement shall not exceed 300 mm. Suppose if we have an effective depth of 100 mm. So let's consider the effective depth of 100 mm. So 3 times effective depth is equal to 3 multiplied by 100, which is 300 mm. And again the second criteria is also 300 mm. So here we have the equal value. So in this case also it should not exceed this 300 mm. Next, let's see the second one. The horizontal distance between parallel reinforcement bars provided against shrinkage and temperature shall not be more than 5 times the effective depth of a solid slab or 450 mm, whichever is smaller. That means this is for the distributor bars. So let's consider the previous case only. Effective depth is 120 mm. 5 times 120, which is equal to 600 mm, and the second criteria is 450 mm. So among these two, whichever is the lesser value, spacing shall not exceed this one. So here spacing shall not exceed 450 mm. So friends, I hope you all like this video. Please do comment in the comment box if you have any queries, and don't forget to subscribe this channel for more videos. And in the next part, let's solve one example and design the cantilever slab. Thank you for watching.